Welcome, fellow adventurers, to a tale of breathtaking landscapes and the bonds forged on the open road. In the heart of Europe lies the Central Alps, a motorcycle rider's paradise. But this story isn't just about the stunning scenery, it's about a carefully crafted adventure for friends new to these winding roads. Now, before we could embark on this epic journey, fate had already dealt its hand. Prior to meeting Stefan and his friends, I had committed to the Transitalia Marathon, a challenging 4-day off-road motorcycle event in the heart of Italy. On my way to the Transitalia Marathon, my trusty motorcycle suffered critical engine damage. Stranded halfway to Italy, not only did my Transitalia Marathon dreams hang in the balance, but so did the plans for the subsequent trip. With no functioning motorcycle, the adventure seemed destined to be just a dream. This is where Stefan came to the rescue. It was his act of kindness and generosity that allowed me to borrow one of his motorcycles. And so, not only were my Transitalia Marathon dreams salvaged, but the stage was set for this adventure through the Central Alps with Stefan and his friends. Join us as we relive the highlights and the camaraderie that defined this motorcycle journey through the Central Alps.
Memorable trip of a lifetime. Incredible. Yeah, really, really good.
The initial encounter with Stefan took place in Hamburg during the summer of 2022. A chance connection born out of shared passion for KTM motorcycles and the world of social media. What started as a collaborative effort for a motorcycle trip to Norway, where Stefan generously provided a bike and riding gear for my brother, evolved into a lasting friendship. Fast forward to the fall of 2023 and the stars aligned for Stefan and me to embark on a motorcycle tour together. Despite the demands of building his motorcycle rental business, Stefan seized the rare opportunity to hit the road. Surprisingly, he hadn't explored some of the finest motorcycle routes in the Alps, as his previous adventures primarily focused on off-road riding. Motivated by the desire to share the thrill of the scenic roads, I meticulously crafted a 6-day motorcycle tour through the Central Alps, showcasing the very best within the time constraints of just 6 days. Stefan, accompanied by 2 friends, would kickstart the journey riding solo for the initial 2 days. Jochen and I were joined by Uwe, whom we had met during the Transitalia Marathon. The 3 of us would take those 2 days and ride north from Rimini. The rendezvous point was set at the base of the iconic Stelvio Pass, the crown jewel of high alpine passes. The Transitalia Marathon is over. We're still in Rimini. We're heading now to Lake Garda. And there's going to be a long section of Autobahn, and then we leave the Autobahn and we'll discover the sort of east side of Lake Garda. There's some really nice curvy roads. We'll go through Riva and then we'll decide from there where this tour is going to end for today. That's 11:15 right now, so late start, 23 degrees, perfect riding weather. Let's go.
I've been on this trek a couple times before. The last time was here in late fall. It is 4:30 right now, so it's a bit later in the day. The sun is quite low, and after the hot ride on the Autobahn, this is so nice. It gives us a chance to cool off and enjoy this amazing road here. It's pretty narrow, so you have to watch traffic. So you don't always need the high Alps to have spectacular roads like this. This is sort of a mid-mountain range. And this road goes alongside the mountain for quite some time, and it's like this. It's a nice flow of one curve after another. Now, in about a month's time, this place has the most beautiful colors you'll find in this area. With all the trees, the leaves turning. Catch this on a nice October day. This is one of the most scenic rides I've done in this area. Wow. Oh, guck dir das an. Wow. Ab durch den Wald. We made it to the northern tip of the Lake Garda, and it's right in front of me here. Beautiful, beautiful view. It's a bit later at night, so the sun's coming in quite low. It's quite beautiful here. We will try to make our way through traffic and then see if we attempt parts of the Tet Trek, which is on the northeastern side of the lake. It seems like the sun's going to be up for a little longer, so maybe we can do that. The problem with this area is, of course, it's so busy. So freaking busy. So many cars. But, hey, I'm going to enjoy the view for a second here. This is beautiful. Ich war hinter dem Bus, ich bin hinter euch. Vor euch. Alles klar, ich fahre hier mal rein. Aufgeschissen. So. So sieht es aus. Alle da. So we're on the west side of Lake Garda, northern section. There's a ton of tunnels to go through. At some point we have to take an exit out here to meet the Tet Trek, or actually follow the Tet Trek into the mountains. But the view is awesome because the sun's setting and the east side is illuminated now. Wow. So we left the road along the lake and now we're making our way up the mountain, and this is awesome. This is a really nice road. Look at this tiny curvy road. Ah, okay, ja, es geht ja noch rechts. Okay. Ist ja gar nichts los, korrekt? So muss es sein. Ja, hammer gut. Wow. Wow. Yes. No, that's very cool. Geil. Ah, geil. So we made it to our today's final destination. What's the town's name? Gariano. So it's pretty cool. We just picked it out and it's still quite nice. It's twilight at the Garda Lake.
Nestled along the serene shores of Lake Garda, Gardiano stands as a hidden gem, captivating visitors with its timeless charm and picturesque landscapes. This quaint town is situated on the western bank of Italy's largest lake. A small cafe near the harbor was the perfect place to have a small breakfast and start the day. Today, we will leave the Lake Garda region and head north into the heart of the Alps, where we will meet up with Stefan and his friends.
It's a beautiful morning at Lake Garda. The sun has risen already over the mountain ranges. We got up early, 6:30 in the morning, took it easy, had some nice breakfast close to this tiny harbor, really good cappuccino and croissant. And now we're on our way to meet the Tet Trek again. We left the Tet Trek, we're about 10 kilometers off the Tet Trek. We're gonna go up the mountains again and go to the Tet Trek, and hopefully we'll see some sort of light gravel roads, I think. Never been in this area, but I'm quite curious to see. It's a beautiful day. It's already 20 degrees out. and then we will make our way through the mountain ranges on the west side of Lake Garda. Was ist da los, Uwe? Fällt dir wieder dein Motorrad auseinander?
Ja, ich habe nur gesehen, dass das Band, das rechte, runtergefallen ist, weil im Schatten war immer sowas flackernd. Das kann nicht sein. Aber ist schon komisch, mit dem Ding, der wackelt hinten immer so hin und her.
With Uwe sorting out his luggage, we were all set to tackle the first stretch of gravel for the day. Gravel tracks are a rarity in this part of Italy, making the upcoming road all the more enjoyable.
So the difference is this time we have all our luggage with us. The bikes are a bit heavier, they behave a little differently than they did on the Trans-Italia Marathon, where we were just riding with day luggage. I still had my drone pack with me and tools, but I was probably a good 20 kilograms lighter than I am right now. We're back on pavement along a very scenic and curvy drive along a reservoir. And the sun is still low in the sky. It's a beautiful view here.
Lake Valvestino proves to be a charming artificial reservoir, surprisingly reminiscent of breathtaking Norwegian fjords in certain areas. Positioned alongside the road linking Lake Idro to Lake Garda, it is regulated by the Ponte Cola Dam, which is strategically constructed along the Toscolano stream. Following our initial coffee break along the way, it was time to assess how well my tires endured the extended stretches of winding paved roads, as we would soon encounter our last gravel section on this trip.
Ja, ein bisschen sachter am Gas gehen, glaube ich. Das ganze Geknalle, ey, das sieht ja wirklich krass aus hier. We are still on the Tet, Italy. This is very much still a paved section, a little dirty road here. Very paved, narrow road that goes up the mountain here. There's a little bit of traffic here beforehand. And we want to hope that this track actually is open. We saw some signs that it might be closed, but so far so good. These tracks are fun if you like tight corners and narrow roads. The only thing that is a bit of a pain is line corners. Really have to watch out because it fits a car, it doesn't fit a car and a motorcycle necessarily. So you have to keep your eyes peeled so you don't run into a car. Not sure what this road is. Maybe it was an old road to get across the mountain and it was replaced by a faster, bigger road at some point. Wow. Da ist der Tunnel. So we're up here at pretty high elevation at the moment. We got a nice view down to the valley. I think it goes up a little. I see a building up there. That's probably where we're going. But yeah, it's pretty spectacular road. Pretty small. I'm not sure a lot of people get to see this really. Na satte. Schön. Kannst du gleich hier machen. Ich gehe da nur die Straße hoch. Oh, gravel. Finally, finally. Gravel section. This is what we came here for. So right now Uwe on his Tenere 700 is riding in front of me. And we're still doing a couple days together on road or on these smaller TED tracks after the Trans-Italia Marathon. Taking it slow with the hikers. That's fun. Check this out.
And here it was, the last stretch of easy-to-ride gravel road for this trip. We relished the last kilometers of unpaved TED track. Before journeying north through the Alps, we encountered one last highlight on our route, an abandoned site from the Cold War era. While the main entrance was blocked, our adventure bikes allowed us to discover an alternative entry point, enabling us to explore this piece of history up close.
Cheers! These lost places. Check it out. Yes! Nice graffiti. Whoa.
The station was a vital component of the Allied Command Europe High Band, a NATO radio communication and early warning system operational from 1965 to 1995. Situated at an elevation of 2,196 meters on a mountain in the province of Bergamo, this station played a crucial role as part of a network of stations stretching from Norway to Turkey.
We're doing a little detour. Seems like Uwe knows this area. We're just going up a kind of hill. Not sure where it's taking us. Ah, the Jesus. It's a Jesus. There's a Jesus, just like in Rio. Klar.
The imposing golden statue of Christ the King, standing at a majestic height of 8 meters, dominates the Camonica Valley from the hill of Magdalene of Pieno.
This is one of my favorite passes here in this area. The Passo Tonale, Passo di Gavia. It's a relatively narrow road. Not all of the road is in very good condition, but I just like the way it's narrow. It's very curvy. You have to kind of watch it a little bit for traffic. Tight hairpin turns. Everything to make a pass really fun. And of course, beautiful scenery on top of that. So we are very much at the bottom of it. We should be at the top of Passo di Gavia in probably 20 minutes or something like that. And it's beautiful with the light shining in. It's already getting a bit late. And it's 4:15. We got a little bit of a dreamer in front of us. It's always fascinating that people don't look into the rearview mirror. See, they have traffic behind them. Probably doesn't even know and probably gets completely scared when we start to pass him. See, it's not having a bit of a... Ja, der Kollege kommt nicht klar. Das ist da, bin vorbei. So this pass goes well above the 2,000 meter mark, and it's already starting to look pretty bare. We're about to exceed the tree line here anytime soon. And then the scenery changes completely. The very first time I did this pass was actually in the rain. It was pouring, it was dark already. And it looked like a scene from Lord of the Rings, Mordor or something. It was pretty foreboding. This is perfect now. Perfect riding day. Perfect riding weather. Wir fahren da lang. Ich glaube nicht.
With 2,621 meters in elevation at its peak, the Gavia Pass stands as a towering mountain pass in the Italian Alps, securing its place as the 10th highest paved road in the entire Alpine region. Close to the summit of the pass, we could not resist a small gravel section next to a tunnel.
Ich weiß nicht, ob wir da durchkommen.
Nestled within the Lombardy region, this pass serves as a natural boundary separating the province of Sondrio to the north and the province of Brescia to the south.
We are going up to the top of the Stelvio Pass from the Bormio side. Go up the Stelvio, this is usually one place you can come down to. The more exciting part is on the other side. We'll probably go down the Stelvio today and find a place to stay at the bottom of the Stelvio because Stefan and the gang, they've done a lot of riding today. They would prefer to meet us at the bottom of the Stelvio. So we'll just go this up and down and we'll find a place to stay once we're at the top of Stelvio. We are at the top of the Stelvio Pass. It's a beautiful day. It's a little chilly. It's about 13 degrees. And usually at this time of day, there isn't much going on. And wow, snow-capped mountains. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Satte, man kann es ja doch nicht lassen, irgendwie hier hoch zu braten, ne? Das ist irgendwie, apropos Braten, da gibt es eine Bratwurst. Also das ist der Uwe nicht.
Für mich echt mental anstrengend.
Ich meine, ich habe ja Piano gemacht, um die Reifen nicht so zu zerheizen, ne? Blöde Sprüche, wie immer, gibt's umsonst.
At the summit of the Stelvio Pass, we encountered a group of young riders on their super motorbikes, and Jochen gladly lent a hand by providing tools for impromptu repairs. We are at the top of the Stelvio Pass, and it's beautiful. The sun's about to set, and with the remaining daylight, we're gonna make our way down. And we have a hotel about 30 minutes from here, and then meet the other guys. We had just enough time for a customary arrival beer before the other members of our expedition joined us. The eyes reflecting the excitement of the journey that lay ahead. Together, our group was now complete, ready to venture into the heart of the Central Alps.
Jo, grüß dich Mensch, schön, dass ihr da seid.
Following a delightful meal, we wrapped up the day at the bar. The hotel owner generously shared valuable riding tips for the area, taking the time to guide us through the establishment. He delved into the rich history of the Bella Vista Hotel, sharing stories with us of his illustrious guest, including the legendary ski icon from the 1970s, Gustav Töni. The hotel proudly houses an extensive collection of trophies, medals, equipment and newspaper reports, paying homage to one of its most distinguished guests. At the start of day 3, the group was finally united and geared up to explore the finest offerings of the Central Alps. Our journey today would keep us in the Italian and Swiss Alps as we headed westwards, approaching the border of Switzerland. To kick off the day in style, our first pass is none other than the iconic Stelvio Pass. Back in 2008, the Stelvio gained widespread international acclaim courtesy of the immensely popular British automotive TV show Top Gear. The presenter hailed the Stelvio Pass in Italy as one of the premier driving roads in Europe. Numerous lists have since recognized it as one of the finest places globally to experience an exhilarating drive. The Stelvio Pass is a mountain pass in northern Italy, bordering Switzerland at an elevation of 2,757 meters above sea level. It is the highest paved mountain pass in the Eastern Alps and the second highest in the Alps. No less than 48 hairpin bends on its eastern face make it an icon like no other, while numerous challenging 180-degree hairpin turns pose a distinctive thrill for motorists.
So it's it's not really a secret tip, but usually most people stay down there, they don't come up here. We're going all the way up here, get a spectacular view of the pass and the hairpin turns.
The Tibet House sits slightly above the peak of the Stelvio Pass at 2,800 meters. It offers a fantastic vantage point to appreciate the road below, adorned with its numerous hairpin turns and the majestic peaks of the Italian Alps. After taking ample time to relish the view, it was time to bid farewell to Uwe, who was parting ways with the group to head back home to Germany. For the rest of us, it was time to resume our journey.
We spent quite a bit of time at the top of the Stelvio Pass. The beautiful view, especially in the morning sun. Took a few photos, and now we're on our way to Bormio. There are a couple ways to get down from here. There is the Swiss side, the Umboy Pass, which is still blocked for mudslides. And then there's the Italian Bormio side, the one we're taking. And it's a nice refreshing 10 degrees, but the sun's coming out, so starting to heat everything up. And actually I'm quite comfortable in my climb Badlands right now. So this is the part where we split. We'll take a left, and if you go to the right, you immediately cross into Switzerland. Usually the views are nicer going down, because you get to see the whole road and all of it. And especially in the morning light, it looks nice. Yeah, this is nice. Full-on view of the waterfall in the morning light. Isn't that amazing? These motorcycle riders don't know what they're doing. The doggy in there. That's cool. So this is our first coffee break. We're in Livigno. We just came down here. It's quite cold, and it's time to warm up in the sun with a cappuccino.
Livigno benefits from special tax privileges attributed to both isolated location and the economic condition of its population. Thus, it serves not only as a great spot to pause for coffee, but also as an ideal location to refill your tank.
We just entered Switzerland from Livigno, and we got this spectacular view of the mountains and a glacier right in front of us. It's beautiful. Next couple of days, we'll be seeing some of the most spectacular roads that Switzerland has to offer in the Alps. They're very, very scenic roads. The only thing to pay attention to in Switzerland is the speed limit indeed. It's 80 kilometers an hour on roads like this, unless stated otherwise. And if you go a few kilometers over speed limit, it's not the end of the world. If you go 20 over speed limits, that can get quite expensive. There's quite a bit of traffic here. One reason is today is a Saturday, I think. It's the weekend. So we're at the weekend travelers to the tourists that are already here. That's a bit more traffic than normal. I suggest we keep it at that, just look at it, because we have a bit more distance to go. We'll see similar stuff like this, but this is pretty cool. Bernina Pass, that's the name of the pass.
Before ascending the next pass, we conducted a brief test of the KTM 1290 Super Adventure's robustness and the durability of the hard panniers. Unfortunately, Raphael dropped the bike during a turn, resulting in minimal damage with only the tip of the clutch lever breaking off.
Kommst du klar mit dem Kuppeln so, oder willst du einen neuen Hebel dran haben? Ich habe einen dabei.
Fortunately, his climb airbag vest was intelligent enough not to deploy, and shortly afterwards we were back on the road again.
The next pass on our list today is the Albula Pass. Last time I was here, there was a lot of construction. All the new stuff, the new roads that you see, that was all being constructed when I was here. Hopefully we can make this pass without any construction sites. The Albula Pass is also one of the top 50 passes in the Alps, so it's absolutely worth seeing.
Constructed in 1865, the road across the pass was once the most crucial north-south connection in Graubünden. The pass reaches its peak at an elevation of 2,306 meters.
So the approach of the Albula Pass is like this, pretty bare above the tree line all the way to the peak of the pass, and it looks entirely different when you descend from the peak on the other side of the mountain. Yeah, it doesn't quite look like this here, but look at this, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
The route to the Albula Pass offers a diverse landscape featuring trees, rocks, hairpin turns and the viaducts of the Albula railway route on the west side. Another rider, Sebastian, joined our group for a couple of days. He departed early in the morning from Munich to meet us in Switzerland. Sebastian, Jochen and I had previously completed the last 2 ACT off-road tours together in Italy and Greece. Additionally, Sebastian and I spent 2 weeks in Ireland and Scotland the year before.
That's an interesting, whatever that is. The building. So we're at the top of the Julier Pass.
The Julier Pass ascends to an elevation of 2,287 meters and stands as one of the 3 paved road passes linking the Engadine with the northern Grisons, alongside the Albula Pass and the Fluela Pass. In comparison to the Albula Pass, the Julier Pass boasts a broader road with more expansive turns, establishing itself as primary route to traverse the Albula Alps.
So here the kite surfers a little closer up. Well, it's pretty windy. Looks like perfect conditions for this kind of stuff. Center the Surf. Wir gehen hier mal gucken, was ist. Manchmal haben die ja Restaurants auch.
The distinctive setting of Lake Silvaplana, where a lively thermal wind blows each day, has transformed this locale into a mecca for windsurfers. It proved to be an ideal spot for us to enjoy a leisurely late lunch while observing the windsurfers showcase their skills. Soon after our lunch break, we encountered heavy traffic on our next pass.
Kannst doch gar nicht so ohne weiteres vorbei, das ist das Problem. So, we're on the Mayola Pass. And it's a very short section of very tight turns. Get you down from the sort of high plateau. And it's a beautiful drive without a bus in the way. Nein, fine.
The Mayola Pass includes a series of steep sections, some with gradients reaching up to 11 degrees, and tight hairpin turns that demand focus.
Nettes lässt er uns vorbei, aber das macht er nicht.
Particularly when encountering larger vehicles from the opposite direction.
Das Ding ist komplett leer. Das ist richtig geil.
At its peak, the pass reaches an elevation of 1,815 meters above sea level.
There's definitely a high density of tight turns in this pass.
The pass road stretches for almost 24 kilometers in total, yet the most thrilling section featuring numerous hairpin turns spans just over 5 kilometers. The initial road over the summit was constructed in 1827 to 1828. However, the advent of the road tunnel through the San Bernardino in 1967 and the Gotthard in 1980 marked the conclusion of the transit of goods over the Mayola Pass.
You get this awesome waterfall to our right. That is really cool. It's not that often that you see that here. It's not like Norway where on every street corner basically you've got one of those. They don't even have names there, they're just like there because... And then they've got the really big ones too. But this is cool, it's a nice waterfall. Was ist denn da los? Komm, Endspurt. Schaffen wir noch. Volle Konzentration. Ein bisschen besser. So we're near the end of our tour for today. It is 15 minutes to 6. We found a place just at the bottom of the Splügen Pass, which will be the first pass tomorrow morning. It's a really nice pass, one of the nice ones in this area. And it should be quite nice in the morning. We found a place kind of remote, not sure if we can find something to eat up here. It looks very deserted, but it seems like they have beds for us. So let's check it out and call this one a day. Schön, dass du dabei bist. Ja. Auf ein paar coole Tage. Alle heile angekommen. Super.
No accidents?
Excellence.
No accidents, excellence?
Made it safely
Fantastic.
today. Had a great day.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable great day.
Last but not least, I'm so fucking tired. So fucking tired.
I couldn't tell. Time to find the bed and get something to eat. So this is the beginning of day number 4 for us. We cut the trip short yesterday. There's a couple of passes we didn't do. So the first pass of today is going to be the Splügen Pass, basically just in the next few minutes after we leave our hotel. Then we do a little loop and come back down south again to the San Bernardino. Awesome pass, so I'm looking forward to the next 2 passes. Hopefully it's going to be very little traffic because it's 8:30 in the morning. So we got an early start again and it's going to be a long day of riding.
The sun was gradually ascending over the horizon as we approached the Splügen Pass from the south, tracing the shores of the Lago de Montespluga, a reservoir enclosed by 2 dams. The pass, spanning 36 kilometers, extends from Chiavenna in the Italian province of Sondrio to Splügen in the canton of Graubünden. What distinguishes this drive is its remarkable variety, rendering it one of the most breathtaking journeys. The road is the spectacle of twists and turns, complemented by long straights and sweeping curves that add to its allure. The pass boasts a rich history, having been used since Roman times. The initial segment of the road was constructed between 1880 and 1823. As we bid farewell to the Splügen Pass, we traverse a brief stretch of straight road, soon diverting towards one of my favorite passes in Switzerland, the San Bernardino Pass. This winding road with 40 hairpin turns ascends to a high mountain plateau from the north. The San Bernardino Pass reaches an elevation of 2,065 meters above sea level. The stark landscape bathed in the morning sunlight unfolds its beauty as we approach the small mountain lake crowning the pass summit. And the little cafe at the peak of the pass is a perfect place to have our first coffee break. As we revel in the morning sunlight and the beauty surrounding us, it's a moment for reflection. Despite having visited the San Bernardino Pass numerous times before, this particular occasion holds a special significance as I share it with dear friends. The unique joy is derived from experiencing this place through the eyes of Stefan, Raphael and Richard, who are exploring the San Bernardino Pass for the very first time. We just left the peak of the San Bernardino Pass. Most passes have a better side to ride up and down. This pass, anywhere you come from the north or south end, is an absolute pleasure to ride. So we're going down the south end now. That's so cool. So it's gonna get curvy in a minute again. And the haze in the mountains, the sunlight, it looks so awesome. Ich komme mal rüber zu dir. Oh, sorry. After enjoying the winding descent on the south side of the San Bernardino Pass, we promptly verified that we were indeed on the old San Bernardino road. It's easy to mistake it for the less captivating and new, wider mountain road, which typically sees more traffic. Shortly after, we were back on course, and following a brief stretch of mostly straight road, we were ready to encounter yet another highlight. The Gotthard is one of the 2 primary north-south routes through the Swiss Alps. Nowadays, most motorists opt for the Gotthard Road Tunnel, constructed in 1980, or the Passwatch, which was built in 1977, as they offer a swift way to traverse the Swiss Alps. However, for the most awe-inspiring experience of crossing the Gotthard, the historic pass road, the Tremler, is unparalleled. This cobblestone paved road pass was originally constructed from 1827 to 1832 and later underwent reconstruction in 1951, presenting the appearance it maintains today. The tremolo provides a journey back in time to an era when stagecoaches traversed the exact same road in the 1830s. Stretching 11 kilometers, the tremolo traverses 37 bends, 24 of them tight hairpin turns. The road is exceptionally steep, reaching a maximum gradient of 13% in some ramps. Regarded as Switzerland's longest historical monument, traveling this historic road offers a unique experience that cannot be found anywhere else in the Alps. The tremolo reaches its highest elevation at 2,109 meters above sea level and intersects with the newer pass road which was constructed in the 1970s. We pause for a snack, relishing the view over the small lake and appreciating the surrounding scenery.
We are climbing up the Forca Pass. That was the next pass after we left the tremolo, St. Gotthard Pass. There's quite a bit of traffic here today due to the weekend, but it's a beautiful mountain road, spectacular vistas, and it's been quite a while since I've ridden this one here. Especially on such a nice day. Yeah, speaking of lots of traffic. I think the Porsche driver was ready to go fast, but this old lady probably told him to slow it down. Because he was like gunning it out of the corners for the first few corners and then he kind of slowed it down. I can totally see the discussion. He wants to like step on it. So I should have left my old lady at home and enjoyed this road by myself. My nice Porsche. That haze in the air is quite unusual. I've never seen it like this here. Not sure what that is, but it looks really cool actually. There's so many motorcycles out today. We just passed the peak of the Forca Pass. So we're basically at the highest elevation that pass will take you. So you got to see the high mountains, the glaciers. Okay, and you can see the Grimsel Pass, which we also take. That's actually the one on the left. That's our next pass after we leave the Forca Pass.
The Forca Pass is a high mountain pass situated at an elevation of 2,431 meters above sea level. It gained fame from the James Bond movie Goldfinger. The pass is also known for the Hotel Belvedere, which is perched in a hairpin corner across from the parking lot to the closest viewpoint of the Rhone Glacier. The Hotel Belvedere serves as a favorite photography spot not only for motorcycle riders but for all enthusiasts. And for some, the Forca Pass serves as the perfect playground to spin the wheels and capture some social media video footage.
We're making our approach to the Grimsel Pass, which you can see to my right. That's the road. It's going snaking up the mountain, and we are coming down the Forca Pass.
The Grimsel Pass is hailed as one of Switzerland's most iconic mountain passes, offering a perfect combination with the Forca Pass and the Susten Pass. The road seems to have been artfully drawn into the landscape, winding along sparkling reservoir lakes that provide a marvelous sight. At the summit of the Grimsel Pass, a cozy cafe awaits, making it an ideal spot for a refreshing stop or a cup of coffee.
I have never seen this place so busy, especially with motorcycle riders. So we are now descending the Grimsel Pass. We took a little bit of time to look around, and now from here on out it's downhill, down to the valley, on to our next pass. Entering a nice curved section of this pass.
The Susten Pass is one of the big three passes of the Central Swiss Alps alongside the Forker and Grimsel Pass. The Susten Pass road is characterized by its winding and curvy nature, featuring bridges, tunnels and occasional tight curves. It entails a rather steep ascent, reaching a maximum gradient of 10% through certain ramps.
This is a perfect size too. It's not too big, not too small. It's still got enough room on your lane. It's very scenic, fun to ride.
The journey to the top of the pass provides breathtaking views of the Stein Glacier on the south side.
This is a really, really scenic spot here. It just keeps getting better the whole day. There's been one highlight chasing the next. We should be pretty close to the top of the pass.
The Susten Pass reaches its peak at an elevation of 2,264 meters above sea level.
Okay, we're gonna stop here, take a break.
And a quaint cafe at the summit serves as a perfect spot for a quick break.
This is where we get to take a break. We are on the descent of the Susten Pass. Took a quick break up there, and the scenery is just so amazing around here, especially now that the sun is just a few hours before sunset. Looks amazing. We're gonna keep going for a little while until we feel like we want to stop riding, and then we'll start looking for a hotel somewhere on the track. We found a place to stay, which is nearby, so we're just kind of circling around trying to find a place.
Shortly after descending the Susten Pass, we were ready to conclude the day and discovered a hotel for the night. This place not only offered garage parking for the motorcycles, but also a nice outdoor area where we enjoyed a cold beer and reflected on the excitement of the day.
We are back on the road, heading east for quite some time. Taking these smaller roads before we hit our first top 50 pass, the Floela Pass. The next one's going to be the Ofen Pass, and then it's going to be the Umbral Pass, which just opened a couple of days ago. It was closed for several weeks due to mudslides. I'm so happy that they opened it up now, because that's one of the highlights in that region. And then it's up and down the Stelvio again and off in the direction to the Dolomites. Let's see how far we get. If we make it all the way to the Dolomites, I get to see some of the passes there, or if we're gonna stop right before. But check out this, check out the view. I mean, look at this. Wow. This is the benefit of going so late in the season. It's the beginning of October, and the colors start to change in the Alps. You can see it's already well into the fall. We've got the red to green colors. It looks beautiful here. We just arrived at the top of the Floela Pass. It's just over 2,300 meters in elevation, and the size of poles to the side of the road kind of give you an idea how much snow they can expect here in the winter time. Must be a lot of snow up here. Made it through the Floela Pass and the Ofen Pass, and in about 6 kilometers, 4 of us will go to the right hand side to the Umbral Pass, which will bring us to the top of where also the Stelvio ends. That's kind of where we started our tour, and Sebastian, Jochen, we'll head back to Munich a day earlier for other commitments. So this is where we say goodbye to Jochen and Sebastian. It's been our Feels like an eternity that I've been riding with Jochen, doing the Tim, Lake Garda, all that stuff. But I'll see him tomorrow night, so it's not going to be a long goodbye. Tschüss. Wir sehen uns auch wieder, sehr bald. Teary-eye moments.
British Dubai International Global.
We are entering the Umbral Pass. Umbral Pass is a lot less known than its nearest neighbor, the Stelvio Pass. When it comes to the joy of riding it, the Umbral Pass is definitely my favorite. Been up and down this pass multiple times.
The Umbral Pass is a gem that's lesser known and consequently less crowded, making it a fantastic ride well worth exploring. With a maximum slope of 14%, the climb is nothing short of spectacular, featuring 35 hairpin turns.
There's some dirt on the corner. So now we're about to enter the second forest section. We're gonna go over that bridge.
The hairpins are both narrow and steep, presenting a challenge when passing other vehicles.
Ah, gravel, finally.
The peak of the Umbral Pass is situated at the Swiss-Italian border, reaching an elevation of 2,506 meters.
This is definitely one of the more demanding alpine passes.
At this height, the road to the summit currently stands as the highest paved road in Switzerland and one of the highest paved roads in the entire Alps.
And we're entering Italy now. We were just in Switzerland, back in Italy. Cheaper speeding tickets and good food.
We found ourselves once again at the summit of the Stelvio Pass. Riding the Stelvio Pass again wasn't initially part of the plan, but I had forgotten my toiletry bag, which included my contact lenses at the Hotel Bella Vista. This forgetfulness gave us another reason to ride the Stelvio Pass down and then back up again.
Let's see how busy it is here. But it doesn't look too bad. It's not so bad.
Due to poor visibility into blind corners, we relied on our intercom system to warn the group of any oncoming traffic.
Car coming.
Despite the pass appearing relatively empty, we eventually encountered some traffic. A good place to safely pass is right before one of the many tight hairpin turns.
There's a bus coming. Yeah, now you know what the traffic's like when you're up here. And like big bus coming up, loads of cars, bunch of bikers going up the hill. We are at the bottom of the Stelvio Pass. It was an unplanned return to the hotel we stayed at a few days ago because I forgot my wash bag. But the benefit of it is we get to ride it down and up again before we resume the tour. I wish you guys could hear the intercom.
After a quick run to the summit of the Stelvio, I had just enough time to film the guys with my drone as they ascended to the top of the pass.
We are at the lower section of the Gavia Pass. And just a few years ago when I was here on this side for the first time, the road conditions were horrendous. They resurfaced a good majority of it. This is what it used to look like, bumpy. Even worse than this is according to developers, which I left out. So parts of the roads are relatively narrow, which kind of makes this fun to ride. And of course the variety of scenery you get to see just in going up and down this particular pass is amazing. So we're about to get above the tree line now. We're in a sort of very forested section. I mean, there's less and less trees, and at the very top there are none. Now with the light sort of coming lower, it looks even better. You know, if it's like all the way at noon, it doesn't look the same, but now you can see, you know, the shadows of the rocks. This makes it look really cool.
Once again, I found myself at the Gavia Pass, this time approaching from the north toward the summit. As our ascent led us past the tree line, we were met with a stunning, barren and rocky landscape enhanced by the soft light of the late afternoon. Having been on the road for a while, the restaurant at the summit of the Gavia Pass at an elevation of 2,621 meters provided an ideal spot for an extended break, allowing us to savor the breathtaking scenery surrounding us. Despite the Stelvio Pass being more renowned, I consider the underrated Gavia Pass to be one of the most spectacular alpine passes in the Alps, surpassing the Stelvio in every aspect. Having already covered 250 kilometers and with the clock striking 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we made the decision to ride another 150 kilometers during our late lunch, aiming to reach the Dolomites by the end of the day. This choice turned this riding day into the longest of the entire tour.
We found a hotel in South Tyrol in the Dolomites, which is a good 3 hours of net riding time to meet up with friends there. This will make this probably the longest riding day of this entire tour. And we still have a few highlights ahead of us. But the Gavia Pass is definitely the most spectacular one. This is about as wide as this road gets. There's some narrow parts to it further down. Just enough space for a single car. We actually did take the gravel road. There's a tunnel coming up. We didn't go through it, we went around it. There's like a small gravel road. We'll see it in a bit. But that's pretty steep. Yeah, if you go off here, you definitely have to make every corner here. Otherwise, it's a long way down. So that forest section is quite nice, but it is quite narrow in some parts. Got a big SUV coming your way, then there isn't a lot of room. And then compare that to the Grimsel Pass, which is basically as wide as an autobahn. And then we have these like narrow, windy roads like this. We are on Passo de Mendola, and most of the road is just like this. White corners, it's a pretty wide road. A lot of fun to ride a bit faster. Very little traffic, decent pavement. Having a good time?
Fantastic.
That's what I'd like to hear.
Yeah, definitely something.
2 hours and we're at the hotel.
How many?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, normal driving.
Perfect.
I can almost.
Flowing roads up there were.
The flowing roads are awesome. That's why we had to do that part, because that's nice. Now we just go there straight. I can almost taste the beer. Almost.
Yeah, and it's the barbecue.
Oh, the barbecue. Ah,
They have,
the
they
barbecue.
Have, they have Grillabend.
We are in the Trentino area of Italy and about an hour and a half away from our accommodation tonight. We had some amazing roads today and we're going to take the shortest way to the hotel now. That still means we have some awesome roads to get there. There's going to be parts of it that is Autobahn, a toll road, because we need to be there for the barbecue, which starts at 7:30. And at the moment our ETA is 19:20, so 7:20, and the beer is waiting too.
The sun was already setting as we embarked on the final stretch to the hotel. Since this was our last night together, we couldn't have asked for a better conclusion. The hotel had arranged a barbecue and we arrived just in time. With a beer in our hand, we reflected our day around the bonfire that was set up for the guests. The next day, we were welcomed by the most beautiful weather at the foothills of the Dolomites. A light haze draped the rolling hills as we packed up our motorcycles for the last time. Our plan was to explore the finest rides of the Dolomites in the morning before embarking on the long journey back to Munich. After a brief ride in the morning sunlight, we arrived at the heart of the Dolomites. Our initial pass summit was on the Sella Pass, offering a breathtaking view of the Sassolongo group and the surrounding area.
So we got ourselves a little situation. There is a camper van stuck in this construction site. There's a traffic light system, and somehow he must have gotten stuck in there. And now we have to sort of negotiate how to do this. So people are trying to figure out, I guess the camper van has a hard time backing up, so I guess we'll be just turning around. Da wäre jetzt die Försterwende gut, wenn man die richtig drauf hätte, könntest du hier richtig Attacke machen. So let's try this again. This is where the camper got stuck straight in the middle of it. Now they're manually letting us through here. It's got to be quite a backlog now. Yippee-yay. Oh, here's a richtig full house. So this is the Passo Gardena. Awesome place to put your camper in. There's a bus coming. Now we go. No, there's enough room. Okay, I'm gonna have to pass this guy here.
The Passo di Valparola is a high mountain pass standing at an elevation of 2,168 meters above sea level, nestled in the Dolomites. Descending toward the summit of the Passo di Falzarico, it presents a breathtaking view of the towering peaks of the Dolomites. The summit of the Passo di Falzarico served as a perfect spot for a brief break for our group.
We just entered the Passo di Giao, one of my favorite passes here in the Dolomites. It is fun to ride, it's very varied in the scenery you get to see, and it has some of the best views from the very top of the pass. This is also where we're going to break for coffee. So the lower section goes through this nice forest, and then as we exceed sort of the tree line, the entire scenery opens up a bit, and it looks very different actually.
The Passo di Giao holds a special place among my favorite passes in the Alps. Not only for the exhilarating ride to the summit from any direction, but the pass is also one of the most beautiful in the Dolomites. Reaching an elevation of 2,338 meters, the pass peak offers one of the most captivating panoramic views in the Dolomites. We opted for the restaurant at the summit for a lunch break. After soaking in the breathtaking surroundings, we started our descent down from the pass.
So this nice curvy section here is the beginning of the Pordoi Pass, our last big highlight of this tour. It's a top 50 pass on the Sella Ronda, and after we fueled up with Apfelstrudel and Coke and cappuccino, it's time to put all that energy to good use one final time before we hit the fast roads to get back to Munich.
The Pordoi Pass ascends to an elevation of 2,238 meters at its summit, marking it the second highest paved pass in the Dolomites just after the Sella Pass. Featuring 33 hairpin turns and a maximum gradient of 10%, this pass offers a delightful and thrilling ride. While the Pordoi Pass marked our last highlight of the day, we had the pleasure of riding the Sella Pass again.
So we did parts of this morning, and it is a lot of fun. We're part of the Cellar One that we're doing, and we might actually do the whole thing again if I think about it.
This experience was a fitting conclusion before we set our course for Munich.
Oh, this guy almost didn't make the corner. Fine guy. This is a very tight turn, and he's like not a good driver. Yippee! Back to the cellar. Actually, this is a nice one to do again.
As the Dolomites fade in a rearview mirror, it's a moment to reflect on the 6-day motorcycle journey through the Central Alps. From the twisty roads of Lake Garda to the iconic Stelvio Pass, we embraced breathtaking landscapes and shared the camaraderie of the open road. As we explored historic passes, reveled in the breathtaking scenery of Switzerland, and navigated the Dolomites, each day brought new thrills and unforgettable moments. What made this journey truly special was the opportunity to share it with riders completely new to this breathtaking area. Experiencing the joy and awe through their eyes added an extra layer of fulfillment to the adventure.
Memorable trip of a lifetime. Incredible. Yeah, really, really good.
The memories created and the friendship forged during this trip are treasures that will stay with us for a lifetime. It's the end of the season, early October. Most riders in Central Europe are thinking about putting their bikes away, maybe squeezing in one last ride before the cold really sets in. Hardly anyone's planning multi-day trips through the Alps at this time of the year. But we were. We were just getting ready to kick off an 8-day motorcycle tour through the Swiss and French Alps, a proper end-of-the-season ride with a mix of familiar faces and new ones, and some of the most incredible roads in Europe waiting for us. No, we knew we were taking a bit of a gamble. October in the Alps can go either way. You might get golden autumn days, or you might get soaked, frozen and fogged in. Turns out, we got a bit of everything. We were about to ride into a trip full of twists in more ways than one. Rain, breakdowns, freezing cold, and a couple of surprises we definitely didn't see coming. But we also had some of the best riding, the best views, and a few moments that we'll be laughing about for a long time. This was now the second year in a row that I'd been planning and riding an end-of-the-season tour with Stefan and a group of friends. The year before, we explored the Central Alps together for the first time. An incredible trip that took us over the legendary roads like the Stelvio Pass, the Gavia Pass and the Tremola. For Stefan and his crew, it was their first time riding those iconic routes, and it left a lasting impression on all of us. Just like last year, this trip kicked off right after I got back from the Transitalia Marathon, a 5-day off-road event held in the heart of Italy. Around 400 riders from all over Europe come together for it, and this time was extra special because it was the 10th anniversary of the event. The final stage finished in none other than the city of Rome, which made the whole experience even more unforgettable. But not everything went smoothly. During the Trans-Italia Marathon, I had a crash that took out the entire left-hand side control cluster on my bike. That meant no ride modes, no cruise control, and worst of all, no heated grips. Not ideal when an October trip through the Alps is right around the corner. Luckily, Stefan had a KTM 1290 Super Adventure S sitting in Munich, and we were able to borrow the parts we needed to get my bike sorted just in time. Just one more thing to add to the prep list before heading out on another big ride. Every good trip starts with a solid crew, and this one was no different. First up, there's Stefan, owner of Adventure Motorcycle Rental, business partner and a good friend. He's an incredibly skilled rider, especially when you let him loose on the twisty mountain road. Bit of a speed demon, to be honest, and thankfully also the guy you want around when something breaks, because he knows how to fix just about anything on a motorcycle. That would come in handy more than once on this trip. Then we've got Raphael, Stefan's best friend since school, and the guy who runs point of the rental station in Munich. He's quiet, usually the one in the background, but he has his perfect timing to drop a one-liner just when you least expect it. Total engineering mindset in theory and practice. And like last year, he took the opportunity to test the durability of his panniers in, let's say, unconventional ways. Next is Jan. He's Stefan's buddy from Hamburg. We briefly met him on the Central Alps tour the year before. He's only been riding for 5 years, but he put serious time on his KTM ever since. And on this tour, Jan somehow managed to be at the center of some of the most memorable moments. More on that later. Then there's Dave. He's been a longtime friend of my brother's and mine. He's only got his motorcycle license the year before, but he's jumped in head first and has spent every free minute riding his BMW 1250 GS. On this trip, he sort of became our unofficial foreign minister. He started a conversation with pretty much anyone we came across. And then there's my brother Phil. This was the second big road trip after a tour of Norway together, and I was thrilled to convince him to carve out time for this adventure. I know how limited the spare time is, but I also know how much he loves motorcycle tours like this one. As a medical doctor, he made sure to bring extra supplies, which surprisingly came in very handy for some unplanned repair work on one of the bikes. Then there's me, the tour guide and official cameraman. This trip was more than just another adventure. It was also a great opportunity for me to fine-tune the guided tour I'm planning through the French Alps. With this group, we had a really wide range of skill levels, from beginners to very experienced riders. It gave me the perfect setup to test how to keep everyone engaged, safe and having fun, regardless of how long they've been riding. And of course, I had my camera rolling most of the time to capture it all. So that's the crew, 6 of us, geared up and ready for an 8-day ride through the French and Swiss Alps. Our journey would start and end in Munich, taking us first through the Swiss Alps and then into the heart of the French Alps, where we'd follow parts of the famous Route des Grands Alpes. But first, we had to get there, and that meant several hours on the Autobahn, some of it in the rain. It's not the most glamorous side of motorcycling, but it's part of the deal. Cold, wet and not exactly scenic, but a necessary evil to make it to the good stuff. Once we've entered the smaller roads, the real ride began. The landscape started to change and we had our first major alpine highlight, the San Bernardino Pass. Normally it's a breathtaking view, one of those top 50 passes that's on every rider's list. But on this day, the summit was buried in low-hanging clouds and the visibility dropped to just a few meters. It gave the whole thing a moody, surreal atmosphere, not the kind of beauty we expected, but memorable in its own way. Not long after, near the Gotthard Pass, we rolled into our first accommodation of the tour. And true to biker tradition, it was time for a well-deserved boot beer, that first cold one you drink while still in your riding gear, boots and all. It was a perfect end to the first leg of the journey.
Day number 2, we're very close to the St. Gotthard Pass, the old tremolo. We actually see it in the background. This is where we're going. This is the St. Gotthard sort of mountain region. We'll be doing 2 passes in that area, and then we're heading to France, where we spend the night tonight. I'm really surprised to have such a beautiful day. It's blue skies, couple of clouds. This is the mountain where we're going to go up to. First pass, straight ahead. Second pass is going to be the Forca Pass, also a really nice pass. And I thought we'd be having an overcast skies at least, or even rainy conditions. There's a chance that the tremolo, the old Gotthard Pass that we're taking, that is still wet. It's cobblestone, so that makes it a bit more challenging.
By the time we reached the historic Tremolo Road, most of the moisture from the earlier rain had dried off. This road had also been part of a Central Alps tour the year before, and it's still one of my absolute favorites. The original construction dates all the way back to the 1830s, with a reconstruction in 1951. Since most of the traffic now takes the St. Gotthard Tunnel, this beautiful old cobblestone route stays relatively quiet, making it a gem for motorcyclists. As we climbed towards the summit, we entered the low-hanging clouds. The views at the tops weren't quite what we hoped for, but we still took a short break at 2,100 meters above sea level. It's always worth stopping here, even if the scenery is hiding behind the fog. This early part of the trip actually shared a few passes with last year's Central Alps route, including the Forca Pass. I've ridden the Forca Pass many times before, but this was the latest in the year I've ever been up there.
Even though I've done this pass multiple times, this is absolutely gorgeous.
At 2,429 meters, the surrounding peaks were already dusted with the first snow of the season. The Forca Pass became internationally famous after it appeared in the James Bond movie Goldfinger back in 1964, with Sean Connery driving his Aston Martin DB5 along its winding roads. Normally, this pass is packed with tourists and cars, but visiting so late in the season meant we had it nearly to ourselves, a rare treat.
Nice rainbow.
After descending from the Forca Pass, we realized we were ahead of schedule, so we decided to head up the Newfoundland Pass as well.
Considering many times I've been up in this region, this is the first time I'm seeing it like this. There's a little bit of snow cap on the peak of the mountains, but not enough to close the roads off.
It had been a while since I'd been there. This pass is only open during the summer months, and with the snowfall around the corner, we're probably among the last visitors of the season. The big parking lot at the summit shows how busy it can get during peak times, but on this day, it was nearly empty. It felt like we had the whole place to ourselves.
This is how we get up to 300 kilometers a day. 50 of them are on the parking lot.
After catching a first glimpse of the snow for the season, we made our way back down and found a nice spot for lunch. It was surreal to experience such a shift in weather. Freezing temperatures and snow at the peak, followed by warm, almost summer-like conditions in the valley, all within the span of an hour. That afternoon, we hit our first hiccup. Dave's bike wouldn't start after lunch. It didn't take long to figure out the issue. His accessory lights had drained the battery while we were eating. Fortunately, Stefan came prepared and pulled out a starter battery to get us going again. Dave was so relieved, he volunteered to cover the first round of beers that evening. Fair deal, I'd say. We wrapped up the day in the town of Megave. It's a popular ski resort in the winter, but when we arrived it was still in that off-season hibernation mode. Beautiful, peaceful, and just what we needed. And of course, sticking to tradition, we kicked off the evening with a beer at the bar, boots still on, before heading into town to find some dinner.
Ich halte den Kopf, dass er nicht so ganz...
Keine Chance.
It is the beginning of day number 3 for us. We're in the entry point of the Route de Grand Alps in France. We had this beautiful chalet resort in Megève. It's a skiing resort. It was pretty much empty. We had it all to ourselves. And today we're properly entering the Route de Grand Alps, hitting about 5 of the top 50 passes that you get to see here in the West Alps. So it's going to be a cool day. Day's going to end on the Col d'Isère, one of my favorite passes in the West Alps. And we picked the long route. I had 2 options today, an A and a B route. The guys wanted to do the long route, so this is what we do. So let's get going.
Day 3 started like any other day on the tour. Plenty of excitement and no idea what was really waiting for us. At that point, we didn't know it yet, but we wouldn't make it to our planned destination by the end of the day. We rolled out in good spirits and hit our first proper stretch of the Route de Grand Alps. It's a legendary route for a reason. Almost 700 kilometers through some of the most scenic and dramatic roads in the French Alps. Our first highlight of the day was the Colmet de Roselin. It's not one of the highest passes in the Alps and you won't find it on every top 50 list, but it's a beautiful one and we were excited to get there. The only problem? Clouds. Thick, wet, cold clouds. It wasn't raining, but the air was completely saturated. Visibility dropped and the temperatures fell as we climbed. Still, we took a short break at the summit because that's what you do. A couple of quick photos, a few laughs and back on the bikes.
Dieses Jahr am Ende überall Vollgas geben.
As we dropped down to lower elevations again, the sky started to clear and the scenery changed. Autumn colors lit up the landscape and the road ahead looked like something out of a postcard. It was one of those moments that makes you forget how cold and wet you just were. But it didn't last long. The poor weather didn't dampen the group's mood though. If anything, it brought out the sillier side of a few riders. And if the weather doesn't crack a smile on your face, just wait until Stefan does something ridiculous. He always finds ways to keep the energy up. Our next challenge was the Col de la Madeleine, another iconic Tour de France climb and one of many along the Route de Grand Alps. And just like earlier in the day, we ran straight into low-hanging clouds and near zero visibility. At this point, the group was still riding strong, but there was this quiet tension building. The conditions weren't dangerous, but they weren't easy either. Just enough to make you second guess every line and every curve. And then, the real problem hit.
Voll auf der geraden Strecke, nicht gesehen, voll Steinlack in der Mitte. Echt? Ich hab gedacht, ich hab geklappt.
Funny thing is, we didn't even notice it right away. It wasn't until we reached the top of the pass that Jan mentioned he had hit a rock early on the straight section going uphill.
Den Stein hast du mitgenommen?
Just a bit of bad luck. A small rock had deflected up and hit the underside of his engine. That's when we spotted it. A significant amount of oil leaking from his bike. Stefan jumped in immediately. He's exactly the guy you want in that moment. He pulled off his skid plate, took a look underneath and confirmed what we feared. Engine case damaged. What looked like a minor impact had actually pushed a small bolt into the engine case, puncturing it and the oil filter cap. Oil was leaking out, and that's the last thing you want, especially if it ends up on the rear tire.
We are at the peak of the Col de Madeleine and we just ran into our first problem. Jan hit a hard object on the track and it hit the bottom of the engine and there's oil leaking, and it was quite a dangerous situation because the oil is getting on the rear wheel.
so he knows that he was slipping. It's already wet on the track. First, we had to stop the oil from leaking. We used some of the luggage to carefully lay the bike on its side. When that wasn't enough, a few of the guys went over to a nearby parking area and came back with wooden crates. We used those to lift the tires and stabilize the bike enough to work on it and stop the oil leakage. Luckily, Jan did not crash on the way up the pass with all that oil on the rear tire, but now we had a bike that couldn't move. Visibility was poor, the air was damp and cold, and we were stranded on top of a mountain. But giving up wasn't even a thought. Luckily, I had packed a few emergency supplies for situations just like this. One of them was a 2-component epoxy, rock solid once cured and resistant to high temperatures. I had used it before in similar issue during an off-road trip, so I knew it could potentially do the job. We got to work, sanding, mixing, cleaning. My brother, who is an orthopedic surgeon, even pulled out some disinfectant spray from the first aid kit to de-oil the area before applying the epoxy. He compared the whole roadside repair to an emergency operating room, where everyone jumps in, knows their role, and everything gets handled quickly and efficiently. We moved quickly, trying to seal both punctures before we lost more oil. Then came the hardest part, waiting. We gave it around an hour and a half to cure, hoping the fog wouldn't thicken and the temperatures wouldn't drop any further. No one said it out loud, but we're all thinking the same thing. What if it doesn't hold? Finally, it was time to find out. We fired up the bike, crossed our fingers and cautiously started the descent. All eyes were on the road, and more importantly on the rear tire, for any signs of fresh oil. But nothing. It held. We couldn't believe it. The fix worked, and just like that we were back in motion. After all the stress, all the unknowns, and the cold foggy wait at the summit, it felt incredible to be rolling again. We were incredibly lucky to be back on the road, but the delay had set us back. Because of the unplanned stop, we reached the Col de Galibier, one of the major highlights on the Route Grand Alps, much later than expected. By the time we got there, it was already getting dark, the fog hadn't lifted, and the temperature had dropped to -1. It wasn't the moment we had hoped for at that legendary pass. So we made a call. We cut the ride short and headed for the town of Briançon. It wasn't part of the original plan, but honestly it didn't matter.
Quite the adventure.
We found a warm place, had a solid meal, and laughed off the chaos of the day. After everything, just sitting together and sharing stories over dinner was the perfect way to wrap it up.
Kannst du unter 20 Minuten nicht bringen.
It's the beginning of day number 4 for our tour through the routes of the Grand Alps. Yesterday we had a puncture in the engine case of one of our KTMs, which set us back a few hours. We did a good part of the passes that we intended to do, but we left out the Col d'Izoire, which will be our first pass for today. Also, that means we're traveling from sort of the middle of the French Alps to the Mediterranean today. So we'll be hitting Monaco and Nice towards the end of the day. So it's going to be a very long riding day. Yesterday, when we sort of fixed the engine case puncture, we left the splash guard off just to see if it actually works. To see if it's sealing properly. So now it's time to put it back on. We're geared up and hit the road, and right away we were rewarded with one of the most beautiful days of the entire tour. The first pass of the day was the Col d'Izoard. It was originally supposed to be our final pass the day before, but now it became our first. And honestly, what a way to start the day. It's one of my absolute favorites. Riding it from north to south is just a pleasure. The climb, the curves, the scenery, it all just flows. But what really makes it special is how different both sides of the pass feel. The ascent is smooth and dramatic, and the descent opens up into these incredible views down the valley. We took our time at the peak to soak it all in before continuing on. Not long after, we ran into a roadblock, and out there, with so few alternative routes, that can be a real issue. We had to detour quite a bit until we got lucky. We ran into some locals who pointed us towards a small gravel road through the forest and mountains, a little shortcut around the closure. We weren't totally sure if it would work, but we gave it a try, and sure enough it worked. It turned out to be a fun little off-road section, and soon we were back on track.
In the Central Alps.
Next up was the Col d'Izoard, another great pass I've ridden many times before. It's not quite as dramatic as some of the others, but it's still a fantastic ride, with a good flow and great views. But the real highlight of the day was the Col de la Bonnette. Now technically it's not part of the official route to Grand Alps, even though it probably should be. It's one of the highest paved roads in the Alps, and while some people call it the highest pass, that's not quite accurate. What gives it that reputation is the little loop that circles around the summit, making it the highest paved loop road in the Western Alps. It's a stunning pass, but it can get really busy during peak season. Luckily for us, riding it so late in the year meant we had it almost entirely to ourselves. And that made it feel even more special. I've been up there many times, but this one was different. Quieter, calmer, just us and the mountains. Originally the plan was to continue south all the way to Monaco and Nice, but between the delays earlier in the tour, the heavy traffic turning towards the coast, and the weather starting to turn again, we made the call to skip it. Instead, we found a place just north of Nice to stay the night. It looked like something out of the 1960s, stylish, kind of retro, and maybe a little too fancy for a group of motorcycle riders. But it turned out to be a great spot. Good food, warm beds, and the perfect place to wind down after another incredible day of riding.
Das ist ein irischer Whisky.
So we hit the midpoint of our journey last night. We stayed in this beautiful hotel, 60s design, I think, from architecture wise. Today's tour is going to go west, so we're going to hit the Verdon Canyon. Basically take every curvy road that there is, and then we'll head up back north again, back north to the Alps.
Day 5 kicked off with yet another beautiful morning. The weather was still holding strong and the Mediterranean Sea was almost within reach. Spirits were high, the sun was out, and we had one of the major highlights of the tour ahead of us, the Verdon Canyon. The The Verdun Canyon is known for having better weather than high alpine region, and today was no exception. Warm, dry and clear skies all day long. It was the perfect setup for a full day of twisty roads and amazing views. We rode the canyon from one side to the other, starting on the northern side, winding our way around and coming back along the southern edge. Basically, we hit every curvy road we could find around the canyon. It's a paradise for motorcyclists. Endless turns, incredible views and hardly any traffic this late in the season.
Hey, genau. So, jetzt können wir es aufheben.
Because we covered so much ground, this ended up being the longest day of the entire tour. But even after hours on the road, we weren't done just yet. As the sun started to set, we rode through the Dalui Canyon, another hidden gem of the region. It's one of the most beautiful canyon roads in France, with long stretches of balcony road carved into the red rock, hanging high above the valley floor. We rolled through just as it was getting dark, which made the whole scene feel even more dramatic. Eventually we reached our hotel for the night, and that's when we ran into a surprise that none of us will forget anytime soon. Enter the Andouillette incident. So we were sitting down for dinner, going through the menu, and the woman running the hotel recommends something special. Andouillette, a local sausage. Sounded harmless enough, Jan and Raphael decided to give it a try. Now none of us knew what andouillette actually was. Spoiler alert, it's a French delicacy made entirely from intestines. The presentation was questionable. The smell was even worse, and the taste? Let's just say it left a lasting impression, not in a good way. When Jan was asked how he liked it, he gave a polite and reserved answer. I thought he was being a bit rude until I tried it myself. That first bite was hands down the worst thing I've ever tasted. The texture, the flavor, the smell, it was almost comically awful. We were all in tears laughing. It turned into one of those moments that sticks with you. The kind of ridiculous memory you keep bringing up every time the group gets back together. So yeah, day 5 had it all. Breathtaking roads, perfect weather, unforgettable scenery, and one truly disgusting sausage. And that's how we wrapped up another unforgettable day on the road.
It is the morning of day number 6 for us on a tour of the Route des Grandes Alpes. This is the place we stayed at. At the moment it looks pretty nice, it's 15 degrees, it's dry. We're still very much in the southern part of the French Alps, so today is all about getting back north again. The last major pass will be the Col de l'Iseran. We're not sure if it's open and if the conditions are good enough for us to ride a motorcycle, because it has been closed due to snow and cold weather conditions. And it's gonna get pretty rainy throughout the day, so we'll see.
You know that feeling when you hit the midpoint of a journey and suddenly the days just start flying by? That's exactly how day 6 felt for me. We started the day refueling in a small town near a hotel, and it kinda hit me. Somehow, we were already more than halfway through the trip. It's that moment where you realize how fast time moves once you're out on the road, fully in it. We had a long ride ahead of us, but the good news was we were back on schedule. After all the detours and delays early in the trip, we had finally caught up with the original route plan. One of the day's main highlights was the Col de Cayol. It's not one of the big name passes, but that's part of what makes it special. It's raw, a bit more remote, and it has this untouched feeling to it. There's not much going on at the summit, but the ride up and down is absolutely worth it. Flowing curves, almost no traffic, and gorgeous autumn landscape all around. When we got to the top, Dave noticed something was off with his bike. Turns out his oil level had dropped. Fortunately, we were prepared. Again, we had spare oil with us and Stefan jumped in right away, giving Dave a hand and getting him sorted out. The roads that day were stunning. Autumn was in full swing down in the valleys and we had some really peaceful stretches riding through golden leaves and open landscapes. One of the highlights for me personally came a bit later. Riding the Col d'Izoire again, but this time from the other direction, south to north. That gave Stefan and me a chance to just let it rip a little. Up until then, I'd mostly been hanging back, making sure the rest of the group was good, but this climb was just for us. We opened it up a little bit and chased each other up the mountain. Pure riding joy. Not long after that, the weather started turning again, just as forecasted.
We are in Italy right now. We just crossed the border from France to Italy and we're heading to Monte Cenis, which is back in France again. But before we get there, we'll have to climb this pass. And as it looks, it goes up to 1800 meters and we're kind of caught in the middle of the clouds. Also, the roads are wet now. It's not really raining, it's just wet. Once again, we're caught in the clouds.
As we climbed towards Col de Mont-Cenis, the fog rolled in. Thick, heavy fog that completely changed the atmosphere. It got so dark and misty that I honestly didn't realize at first that I had ridden that road before. Nothing looked familiar. But then, just as we broke through the cloud cover near the summit, everything changed. The view opened up and this massive reservoir came into sight. Absolutely beautiful. We stopped there for a bit, just watching the clouds roll across the landscape. It was one of those quiet, surreal moments that really stick with you. Then came the big question, do we go for the Col de l'Izoire? But it was already getting late and we had been riding for a long time. So we made the call to skip it for the day and find a place to stay nearby, just before the start of the pass. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. We found a place, had a well-earned boot beer, grabbed something to eat and called it a night.
It's the morning of day number 7 for us on the tour of the Route des Grands Alps. We're a bit behind schedule, so we have a long day ahead of us. The first pass will be the Col de l'Izoire, which we didn't do yesterday. And then we're still heading our way back up north again into Switzerland. If we're going to make the full tour, we'll be at the bottom of the Grimsel Pass, which was closed yesterday. But we'll see, maybe the weather changes and we have a chance to ride over the Grimsel and Zusen Pass back to Munich.
They say good things come to those who wait, and day 7 definitely proved that. After waking up and checking the latest updates, we were thrilled to see that the Col de l'Izoire was open. It had been closing off and on, throughout our trip due to changing weather conditions, so we weren't sure if we'd actually get to ride it. But the day greeted us with blue skies and sunshine, and the road was clear. The Col de l'Iseran is the highest paved mountain pass in the Alps, and for that reason it's often called King of the Alps. It's also a regular feature of the Tour de France, and on this day we had it almost entirely to ourselves. As we rode higher, snow-capped peaks came into view and the air grew cooler. The climb up was absolutely beautiful, with long sweeping curves and that crisp high altitude air. When we reached the summit, it was nearly empty. I've been up there plenty of times before, but I've never seen it like that. No crowds, no noise, just peace and panoramic views. We spent quite a bit of time at the top, took some photos, soaked it all in. That big sign at the summit is usually surrounded by tourists. You practically have to take a number and wait your turn to snap a quick picture. But today, it was just us. We even met a cyclist who had made it up to the top, totally on his own, and we gave him a celebratory wave as he rolled in. We chatted for a bit and shared a few laughs. It was one of those cool little moments you remember, not because it was planned, but because it just felt genuine. For all of us, I think it was the moment where the trip started to feel like it was coming to an end. That was the final major pass, and you could feel the group settling into a more reflective mood.
So we were super lucky to see the Col d'Iseran in weather like this and empty like this. For a while we were the only ones at the end. Met this nice cyclist that came up here. And now we're on a downhill slope down to the valley. So October is a great time to see this area, but of course it's a gamble with the weather. We had our fair share of rain, but overall this is day number 7. We've been quite lucky to have weather like this. Despite the fact that the roads are still wet, but we get this beautiful scenery here, still in the morning sunlight. Also pays to get up early in the morning. So this very likely will be the highlight of today's tour.
As we continued on, we started checking the weather forecast again, and sure enough, things were about to shift. So before crossing the Petit Saint-Bernard, we stopped for lunch. The sun was still shining, so we grabbed an outdoor table and ordered big burgers. Probably too much food for a mid-ride stop, but at that point we weren't too worried about it. And good thing we stopped when we did, because within 10 minutes of finishing lunch and heading back out, the weather flipped. The sky turned grey, the temperatures dropped, and that warm sunny day quickly turned into something completely different. By the time we reached the Grand Saint-Bernard, it was overcast and drizzling. Still a beautiful pass, but the clouds and fog swallowed up most of the views. We didn't stay long, just a few quick stops, and then down the pass onto a short stretch of autobahn to wrap up the day. We ended the ride near the town of Goms in Switzerland, where we found a quiet little hotel, and most importantly, the final boot beer of the tour. We sat down to a great dinner and the mood was calm. Everyone kind of reflecting on the ride, the places we'd seen, the challenges we overcame. It had been a long, unforgettable journey. And we had just one more day to go.
This is the day when we head back to Munich, and today we're not so lucky with the weather. It's gonna be raining pretty much the entire time.
We had been pretty lucky with the weather overall, but this one was going to be a rain ride. But what we didn't know was just how intense it would get. The forecast said rain, sure, but as we left the hotel we still weren't sure how the day would unfold. We had 3 more top 50 passes in Switzerland on the list, and there was a big question mark over whether we'd do any of them.
We are approaching the Grimsel Pass, which is right in front of me. The hairpin turns up the mountain there in the most beautiful weather you can think of. Yeah, it's raining, but It's not so bad. It's only 8 degrees. It'll be cold up there. But it's almost better if it like rains like this rather than it being sort of semi-wet road surfaces. Yeah, you actually have more grip when it's like this.
Originally, the plan was to just ride the Grimsel Pass, a solid one to wrap things up. But once we got going, we kept pushing. One pass turned into two, and eventually we tackled all three: Grimsel, Soesten and Clausen Pass. By the time we reached the last one, we were completely soaked, despite having proper Gore-Tex gear. The rain didn't let up for a second. It wasn't just a drizzle, it was relentless, heavy rain from morning to evening. By the time we made it back to Munich, we had been riding in pouring rain for almost 9 hours. And the most amazing part, no one complained. The mood was still good, spirits were still high, and even though we're all cold, wet and exhausted, the energy in the group never dropped. We rolled into Munich, and just like that, our tour came to an end. Not with sunshine or fanfare, but with soaked gloves, fogged visors and a sense of accomplishment that only comes after a ride like that.
This has been the longest rain ride ever. 9 hours in the strongest possible rain. We had maybe the last 20 minutes where it wasn't raining. Everything is wet, despite a good climb suit. But we're back. We made it back. It's a long freaking day. We're happy to be back. Geile Tour. Never been happier to ride. Etsy, Alter.
It was the perfect kind of imperfect ending. Tough, memorable, and something we'll all be talking about for a long time. It is the end of season 2025 for us, and the end of season ride had become something of a tradition. Last year the West Alps, before that the Central Alps. But this year would be different. This year we were venturing into uncharted territory with a purpose beyond just the riding. 9 riders, friends, partners and my brother. The only week all year we actually get to ride together. See, during the season, Stefan is fully absorbed in this motorcycle rental business, while I'm out guiding tours across some of the most incredible riding destinations in Europe. When we're both busy, which is always, we get to spend little time together, let alone share a ride. This end of season trip is literally the only chance all year to actually twist the throttle side by side. Last year, we opened it up to more friends and my brother, which made it even more special. My brother and I had our first trip together in Norway, then 2 years later the second trip to the West Alps. For a long time I wasn't sure if he could carve out the time to join us for this third adventure, but he did. Having him there meant everything. But Andalusia wasn't just about tradition, we had a business challenge to solve. The motorcycle touring and rental season in Central Europe is relatively short, typically just 5 months. We were looking to expand that season by exploring Southern Europe, specifically southern Spain and Portugal. The goal? to offer tours earlier in the season and maybe even later in the fall when most other places are unrideable. Malaga seemed like the perfect starting point. So this wasn't just an end-of-season celebration, it was a full-blown scouting mission. I'd spent days putting together a 6-day itinerary, and now we had our chance with a total of 9 riders, including myself, to actually test the routes, check out the hotels, and see if this would work. The Andalusia tour would be my first tour next year at the end of March, so this was an opportunity to give it a proper test run with a large group. The crew was a mix of familiar faces from last year's West Alps tour, Stefan, Jan, Dave, Raphael and my brother Phil, and new ones with Günther and our Norwegian friends Björn and Jens. As with all my tours, I brought Cardo communication devices for anyone who didn't have their own. These helmet-mounted units let us talk while riding, which is an absolute game changer for building group dynamics. With riders from different backgrounds, some who toured together before, some brand new, and our Norwegian friends requiring us to switch between German and English, being able to communicate on the move made it so much easier and faster to build that positive group energy. It's like a team building exercise at 100 km per hour. We met in Malaga. Stefan and Günther had brought the motorcycles down on the trailer, a long 2-day journey from Central Europe, and were all converged at the storage facility Stefan now rents near Malaga. Everyone arrived over the weekend, and on Sunday afternoon we met at the facility to pick up our bikes and load them with our luggage. I was coming straight from the Trans-Italia Marathon, a 5-day on and off-road event through the heart of Italy. And before that, the Adventure Country Track Tour, where I was guiding a group through Italy's most scenic gravel routes. My riding gear was covered with 2 weeks worth of dust and dirt. With temperatures approaching 30 degrees that afternoon, we grabbed a high-pressure washer and gave me a much-needed washdown. This time, most of us were on brand new BMW R1300 GS motorcycles for the trip. A couple of the guys had brought their own bikes down to Malaga, but most of us were riding Stefan's BMW rental fleet. Sunday afternoon we had a short 1.5 hour warm-up session on the motorcycles to reach our first accommodation in the mountains north of Malaga. It was a chance to get a first feel for the bikes and the roads in southern Spain. We arrived at the sun was setting, had drinks and dinner outside and watched light fade over the mountains. The adventure was officially underway. Our official day 1 would see us traveling from Malaga to the city of Granada. On the way, we picked up the last 2 members of the group, our Norwegian friends Björn and Jens. Then we spent an entire day carving through Andalusia's curvy roads. As none of us had breakfast this morning, we made our first stop a long one, time enough to get some much needed coffee and food into our systems. Back on the road, carving through the endless curvy mountain roads heading west towards the Sierra Nevada mountain range, only interrupted by a long lunch stop on the way. The accommodation I picked in Granada was close to and within walking distance of the most famous site in Granada, the Alhambra. The Alhambra is one of Europe's most stunning examples of Moorish architecture. A palace and fortress complex dating back to the 13th century that stands as a testament to Spain's Islamic heritage. It's Granada's crown jewel and one of the most visited monuments in Spain. Even though it was late in the season, there were no last-minute tickets available to the UNESCO World Heritage Site. However, we walked along the Alhambra to the old town during sunset, an absolutely magical moment. The light hitting those ancient walls, the views over the city, the sense of history, it was stunning. But not before we had our customary boot beer at the hotel to reflect our first day of riding. It's become a ritual. Park the bikes, crack open a cold one and talk about the day's highlights. And then we headed into the old town for dinner. Day 2 took us from Granada to Jaén. As I sometimes do with my tours, I planned 2 route options, and we picked the more exciting B option, which would take us through the famous Sierra Nevada mountains and up to the ski resort area. It was still pretty empty in the pre-season, but it gave us an incredible view over the valleys below. Then came one of the absolute scenic highlights of the tour for me. The Garaffa Desert is one of Europe's most unexpected landscapes, a badlands-like formation in the heart of Andalusia, featuring dramatic eroded canyons and otherworldly rock formations. Beyond its geological significance, the area is an archaeological treasure, home to over 200 megalithic burial sites dating back 5,000 years, making it one of the most important prehistoric sites in Europe. Most people have never heard of it, which makes it even better. The plan wasn't to go through it, since it's all gravel and off-road terrain and we were on street bikes. However, there's a great section that's paved with concrete for just over 2 kilometers that gives you a peek into the amazing landscape of this desert. It's a perfect viewpoint and photo spot, and we've got some incredible video footage there. The contrast between the high mountains we've been riding through and the stark alien desert was mind-blowing. In Jaén, we stayed at our first Parador hotel. These are historic buildings converted into luxury hotels, and this one was perched on top of a hill next to a historic castle overlooking the valley below. We had drinks and dinner to close out the day, watching the sunset over the castle walls. Our stay in Jaén marked the most northern point of the tour. I tried to keep the routing within the mountainous regions, so on day 3 we made our way south to Antequera through endless olive tree farms and plenty of curvy Andalusian roads. The landscape was mesmerizing, row after row of ancient olive trees stretching to the horizon, punctuated by whitewashed villages perched on hilltops. As lunchtime came around, we found this incredible Jamón Ibérico place, Pata Negra, thanks to Stefan's excellent research skills when it comes to food. This region of Andalusia is famous for its acorn-fed Iberian ham, where black Iberian pigs roam freely through oak forests, feeding on acorns that give the ham the distinctive nutty rich flavor. It's some of the finest cured meat in the world, and we were about to find out why. Stayed in another Parador, not as spectacular as the first one, but still positioned at the top of a hill with great access to the old town. Dave found and reserved a spot at a local restaurant where we had some of the most amazing food of the entire trip. The kind of meal where you lose track of time and just enjoy the moment. We woke up to a beautiful morning once more, and our location on the hilltop gave us a finally beautiful view over the town of Antequera right after the late sunrise. On this day we kept going west to reach the actual westernmost point of the tour, Arcos de la Frontera, and again it was a Parador where we stayed, and again it was perched on a hill close to the old town. Beautiful place, sunshine and spectacular sunsets. But the riding in between was what made this day special. We went through the sierras between Antequera and Arcos de la Frontera. Curvy roads, beautiful roads to ride with elevation changes, past more olive trees and through mountain passes that kept giving us corner after corner. We made sure to pull over from time to time to take in the beauty of the Andalusian landscape and to appreciate the relatively short time we would have together. night ended in Arcos de la Frontera, one of Andalusia's famous Pueblo Blancos, white villages that cling to hilltops like they're defying gravity. This one sits on a dramatic cliff edge 185 meters above the valley, with narrow, winding streets barely wide enough for a donkey, let alone 9 fully loaded BMWs. Navigating up those tight, curvy roads to reach our hotel at the top was quite the challenge. Threading our way through ancient stone archways and past whitewashed walls with just inches to spare. We found just enough space near the entrance to park all 9 motorcycles. The De la Frontera part of the name comes from its history as a frontier town between Christian and Moorish Spain. For centuries, this was literally the front line of a cultural divide. Now, it's simply one of the most stunning places we visited on this entire tour. After our arrival beer, we witnessed one of the most spectacular sunsets of the entire tour. The town seemed to glow in golden light, and you could see for miles across the surrounding countryside. We found a spot in the old town for another incredible meal. By this time, we'd grown close as a group. Days of shared experiences on the road and the ability to communicate while riding had accelerated the bond between us. Midway through the tour, Björn had surprised me with one of my favorite whiskies as a gift. This night, under the starlit sky on the hotel deck, we shared his bottle, celebrating life on 2 wheels and new friendships forged on the Andalusian roads. The sunrise the next morning was stunning. Warm morning light bathed the old town perched on the hilltop, giving us one last view down to the valley before we saddled up and hit the road again. From Arcos de la Frontera, we carved through endless curvy mountain roads with only a brief stop for cold drinks. The riding was pure Andalusia, sweeping corners, elevation changes and views that kept pulling our eyes off the road. Then we arrived in Ronda. Ronda is one of Andalusia's most spectacular and historic towns, dramatically split by a 120-meter deep gorge carved through the heart of the city. The town's most famous landmark, the Puente Nuevo, the new bridge, took 42 years to build and was completed in 1793, connecting the old Moorish quarter with the newer part of the city. Beyond its dramatic setting, Ronda holds an important place in Spanish culture as the birthplace of modern bullfighting. The town's 18th century bullring, Plaza de Toros, is one of the oldest and most beautiful in Spain. It's also a tourist magnet. The place was still packed with visitors in early October, and I'm hoping there will be fewer crowds when I'll be back at the end of March. I had booked accommodation in the city center, right in the old town, and specifically looked for a place where we could safely park our bikes in a garage. It's not easy to find parking in Ronda. Shortly after sunrise, we geared up for one last time together. We had one final view of the beautiful town of Ronda and looked for a breakfast place nearby, as it was also time to say goodbye to our Norwegian friends as we were taking off on faster roads for a longer journey to head back to Alicante. From Ronda, we made our way back to our starting point in Malaga. This would be our last day of riding together, and we made it count. We rode all the way down to the Mediterranean coast, the first time in days where we could see the ocean again. In Marbella, we went straight to the beach and some of the guys jumped into the water and took advantage of the warm October weather. To Malaga to drop the bikes off at the storage facility. From there, we headed to downtown Malaga, where we had a nice, centrally located hotel for our last night together. We had a great meal, went out on the town, had too much to drink and had a fantastic time. Basically closed down the adventure that night, celebrating not just the end of the season, but the success of a scouting mission and another year of riding together. 6 days, 9 riders, countless curves and one question answered. Yes, Andalusia works. The routes were incredible, the hotels were perfect, and the weather in the late season was still rideable. Southern Spain could absolutely extend our season, and I'm already excited to bring my next group here at the end of March next year. But beyond the business side, this trip reminded me why I do this. It's not just about the roads or destinations, it's about the people you ride with, the stories you share over boot beers and dinners, and those moments when you're carving through a mountain pass with your brother beside you and friends from different countries all connected through helmet comms, laughing and calling out the next great corner. That's what the end of season ride is really about, and Andalusia delivered.